This is the Scottish Club Rugby Podcast. The Scottish Club Rugby Podcast. With Stuart Cameron and Dale Clancy.
Hello and welcome to the 7th edition of the Scottish Club Rugby Podcast, and at this stage only one team from the 50 clubs playing Premiership and National League Rugby has a 100% record, and that is Garnock in Division 4, who've been doing very well since coming up from regional rugby. There are two unbeaten in Division 3 still, Orkney, who have played 6 and won 6, and Allan Glens, who have won all their 5 matches so far, and in National 1, Ayr are still unbeaten in their 6 games. Well, join me as always is Dale Clancy, and Dale, bad weather struck last week for the first time this season. Several matches postponed, but the stagger beginning to unwind, you feel? We're beginning to build up a picture of how some of the leagues are going.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the leagues are now starting to map out slightly. You know, you can start to see the lie of the land that we've had a few weekends of rugby. You look at the kind of National 2 is probably one of those leagues that maybe is going against the trend, as up at the top teams are taking points off of each other, but certainly in the Premiership and National 1, you know, it's starting to really settle out in terms of those divisions. So, you know, the weekend gone as well, it's always a shame when games are postponed or cancelled, but, you know, if the weather had impacted a game and postponed it, it certainly had a big say in the games that were played as well. You know, the conditions really played a big role in some of the fixtures that were had last weekend.
OK, let's have a look at the Premiership and the results from last weekend. Currie against Glasgow Hawks postponed, which gave Marr a chance to extend their lead at the top of the table, and they came from behind to beat Edinburgh Accies at Raeburn Place 20 points to 17. Yeah,
big result for Marr on the road, you know, especially the manner that they won the game right at the death, you know, in terms of the last few minutes, being able to get that victory. So that's a huge thing, especially in the weekend where, you know, Currie weren't able to try and react to their defeat at Mansfield Park. It gives them a nice cushion at the top of the division, but, you know, it does kind of go back to the things we're saying about Edinburgh Accies. They needed to win their home games. They needed to try and pick up points because they could fall into that dangerous position between 4th and, you know, if there's any other teams that are going to really put a bit of pressure on for 5th. That's a big victory for Marr and perhaps one that's passed Edinburgh Accies by.
Jedforest 0, Hawick 61. Second time this season Hawick have put exactly 61 points on another Borders team. Jed down to the bare bones really with injuries.
Yeah, they definitely are. I think, you know, obviously we've seen it last week. It was one of the predictions that I got right for Hawick, but I've not had much contact from Hawick people about that. But it was obviously a big win. It was a statement win from Hawick because the conditions probably didn't favour the style of rugby that they were playing. But you know, obviously hearing the feedback, listening to reports from Riverside Park, Hawick were playing quite expansively, you know, in really tricky conditions and being able to really test Jedforest out wide. But as you said, you know, Jed are in a position just now that their squad is really stretched, and that's one of those games that they would probably hope they would get, you know, up for at least, but not being able to score is it's a real sucker punch.
Yeah, particularly at home as well at Riverside Park. It doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't. You know, you don't see a lot of teams at home, no matter what status they're at the time. You know, you very rarely see a team not able to score any sort of points at home, especially at Riverside. We've always said it, they're a different beast at home. You know, it's a difficult place to travel for teams, but, you know, I just think it shows the strength that Hawick have in their squad. You know, they were impressive last year. They've obviously been defeated this year, but, you know, they're still a strong team. So that's another statement from Hawick.
Kelso 19, Selkirk 21. Kelso comfortable at half-time, 19-7 up, and a disallowed try which could have made a big difference there. But fair play to Selkirk for coming back on that one and getting the result right at the death.
Yeah, and I think from that game, especially when I was watching the results coming in round about half-time, and Kelso obviously had an advantage, I didn't think Selkirk had the character to come back into that game, but they've proved me wrong. They were able to come back and win. You know, there was a great try as well in there from Callum Anderson, which has been all over social media. Great interlinking play from, you know, backs and forwards alike. One of those games that's been a really tight border derby. We've not seen a lot of them this year, but that's certainly, you know, been a close encounter. And I think Kelso will be disappointed that they weren't able to control the game when they had a sizable advantage, but Selkirk, it's a valuable win for them. Kelso obviously still get the losing bonus point, but, you know, Selkirk will be chuffed to bits to go back to Philippoch with the victory.
We've mentioned on a previous podcast that Kelso once had 4 draws in one season, and if Aaron McComb hadn't kicked that last conversion, it would have been Kelso's 3rd draw in 6 games.
Yeah, I think it just shows the character that Kelso have had the last few years. They're never really emphatically beaten often. It has happened, and it's happened this season. But they're not often out of the race. If they can stay in games, they make it as tight as you like. And it's obviously another game that they could have picked up a draw. I think they would have went into that game, and if they were in that position, they would have taken it. Obviously, they don't want to be defeated at home. But it's just one of those games. And Aaron McCombs, he's an accomplished kicker. Selkirk are another team that are changing their starting lineup around a little bit, perhaps maybe not down to bare bones like Jedforest, but their squad is stretched. But that shows great character in that team to be able to get a narrow victory in what is a really difficult place to play at Poynter.
Well, Kelso's two draws, of course, were against Musselburgh and Heriot's Blues, and the two of those met at Stony Hill on Saturday, and it almost ended up a draw. It was 39-34 in the end. Musselburgh 21-0 up. Heriot's came back to lead. Then it was 34-34, and another late try for the second match in a row, because obviously they got that late try against Selkirk at Philiphaugh to give them the points that they needed. Again, Musselburgh showing that fighting character.
Yeah, I think I've seen this somewhere as well. That's the first time Musselburgh's ever beaten Heriot's, in a competitive fixture, which is a huge statement for them. Two clubs that perhaps had different journeys to where they are now. Heriot's have been at the top of club rugby for a long, long time. Musselburgh have had to work hard to get through the ranks because, in the Central Belt, it's really congested in there with teams and clubs and players and, the kind of movement of players as well with universities and, work and lifestyle now. It's difficult to try and keep that continuity, but it's a great victory. Obviously a topsy-turvy game. It's Stony Hill between those two sides, but there were two sides that were at the bottom of the table last year, both lucky to stay in the division, but they were both performing a lot better, this year going in. So high scoring, but Musselburgh, to stay in this division, you need to make your home form count, and they're doing really well. A valuable victory on the road against Selkirk a couple of weeks ago, and then backing it up with a good victory against Heriot's, who've started the league really well.
And those two teams now in the top five. Let's have a look in the Premiership then. Marr at the top with 25 points, played 6-1-5, just that one loss on the first day of the season against Heriot's Blues away at Golden Acre. Hawick up to second now, thanks to Currie not playing. 23 points for Hawick, Currie on 20, Heriot's Blues also on 20, but Currie obviously have played one game less. Musselburgh in 5th position on 19, Edinburgh Accies dropping to 6th with 18 points, Selkirk in 7th with 11, Kelso also on 11 points, but a slightly worse points difference. Glasgow Hawks are now in 9th position, they've got 8 points, and then Jedforest played 6, lost 6 with just the 2 points for them.
Yeah, it is disappointing. Now, I wouldn't say I would have predicted that at the beginning of the season, but I did think there was going to be a border team at the foot of the table, or towards the foot of the table. It's now concerning to see that we've got 3 out of 4 in the bottom 4 positions, but I think that's still early in the season. Some teams have had harder fixtures than others. I do think, and I do sympathise with the players and the coaches at Riverside, because every weekend they'll get players on the pitch, they'll try hard, but they're just not able to, get a break at the moment. Their squad, as you can see when it's selected and it's announced, it's really, really stretched, which just kind of highlights some issues that a lot of clubs have at different levels. But it's obviously been a difficult start to this Premiership campaign for Jedforest, and it's going to, you can probably look at that and actually say, yes, they've got 2 points or 6 points behind Glasgow Hawks, who have won a game. It's amazing what one win could do, but it's just where that win's coming from at the moment for Jed, and that's a bit of a damning kind of indictment on Jedforest at the moment. But that has to come soon, and probably not a better fixture to get it than this weekend.
Let's have a look at the full programme that's expected, with weather looking a lot better for Saturday. And let's start with that Glasgow Hawks versus Jedforest game, 9th against 10th. Let's hear from Jed's David Grieve from the coaching staff. And first, head coach of Glasgow Hawks, Andy Hill.
Obviously it was disappointing that the game against Currie was the only game cancelled in the Premiership last week, but that's just is what it is. We'll just need to go on with it, and obviously we're in a position now where we're kind of basically chasing the pack, and it gave some clubs a chance to get away and get points on the board to put us under a little bit more pressure. But our thoughts are getting moving up this league, and obviously Jed haven't won a game yet, but we're under no illusions that they're going to look and target this game, having beaten us up at Balgrey last year, and having given their current run of results. It's not been what we would have wanted, but it's what we're going to have to, it's a task that we're faced with, is to go away and get a win this Saturday. Still going to be challenged. Looks like Liam Brims is going to be a long-term injury for us, having looking at scans and things like that. So he gives Gavin Cruikshanks and David McCartney a chance to battle for the 10 jersey, and young Freddie Thompson is coming through, who's played well, and we'll also start to look at Henry Lapsley, who's played for Strathclyde Uni at 10, and Wayne Burrows, who's returning from injury next week. And on the positive note, that we've got the likes of hopefully James Pinkerton fit this week, and we've got Kyle Shanahan back fit, who's probably been our in-form prop. Those will be positives, but we lose out with Sam Graham not being available this week in the centres. So nobody really knows where Jed are at the moment, because their teams change week in, week out with availability. A lot of young players from what I believe are playing. So we basically just need to focus on ourselves, a bit like what we said against pre-Currie. We need to focus on trying to get ourselves back to playing the brand of rugby we've been doing. So we've been allowed ourselves 4 sessions then to go away and really focus on our style of play, kind of really rep some of the things that we need to improve on in terms of a defence, in terms of our tackle tech, and working together to try and get those double shots and gain dominance what we had in the first part of the season and through pre-season. We need to try and get that and transfer it over into players that are now playing in the Premiership, so they become dominant there. So hopefully a good game up at Balgrey.
So on Saturday we played Hawick with what was a really depleted squad. I think we had about 12 or 13 players unavailable, including 5 front rowers, which we really struggled to replace. We've not got a big squad, and just having that many players out, it's really not easy at the moment. Well, it was a bit of a mismatch. The first 15-20 minutes, we were actually in the game. We had a lot of possession, a lot of territory. The boys looked quite good out there actually. And then kind of after that, Hawick kind of got in their stride and they ran away with it in the end. Like, one of the things we said to the boys though before the game was just don't give up, play at the final whistle. And to their credit, they done that, and that was a positive for us. A few boys came in for their debuts. In the forwards we had Hamish Stenhouse and Harvey Keefe. Hamish, he's an 18-year-old back row player. He looked good out there. He had a big work rate, and he's obviously going to one for the future, but I'm sure he'll be involved again pretty soon. Harvey, he's a pretty solid player, so that's a positive for us. In the backs, I thought Lewis Elder and Lewis Walker both had good games at halfbacks. It was their first game together, and they looked really good. This week we're up to Glasgow Hawks. Hopefully we'll get hopefully 2 or 3 players back from injury, but we're just going to really have to wait and see till the end of the week.
Big game, 9th versus 10th Jed on, as we said, just 2 points at the moment, and they obviously want to get something at Balgrey.
Yeah, they definitely do. I think but listen to those, the 2 coaches there. There's probably a little bit more hope, perhaps, from Glasgow Hawks. I feel like they've obviously assessed their squad. They've got probably a little bit more depth of player to play with, and you can see how disheartening it is. When your luck's not in, when you don't have there's nothing you can do about injuries as well, apart from nurture the player and try and keep them involved as best you can. But when your luck's not in, it's not in. And now, if it wasn't for bad luck, I don't think Jed would have luck at all, because the players that they're missing would be big assets to that team. However, the caveat to that is, there's a lot of young players being able to come through. This might be one of those transition years for Jedforest. So if they're able to get these players some good experience at the top level, then it's only going to, bode well for the future. But this weekend, focusing on the game this weekend, it is a huge one. It's another one of those ones that are at the bottom of the league. Although Glasgow Hawks have played 1 game less, you feel that if Jedforest are able to starve them of any points, then it's one of those scenarios again. It keeps it nice and tight, and it puts numerical pressure on Glasgow Hawks. But if Hawks pick up the win and they do the same to Jedforest, that gap then becomes quite sizeable.
Well, Hawick against Musselburgh at Mansfield Park. Hawick up to 2nd in the table now. Their head coach is Matty Douglas.
Yeah, really pleased with Saturday's performance. The conditions were terrible. Wind and rain and a really slippy ball. But for us, I thought we played some extremely good rugby on Saturday. I thought we were clinical. I thought the set piece worked really well. We had a couple of changes due to Dalton being injured. Sam Frizzle came in to partner Fraser Wilson in the middle row, and both of them were exceptional. Forward part really worked hard around the park and our backs took the opportunities, and I thought Lee Armstrong and Andrew Mitchell played really well. That partnership is really starting to take shape, and to go to Riverside and stop Jedforest scoring is a big achievement for us. I thought defensively, again, we were bang on, and the last couple of weeks our defence has really went to another level. And look, we've got 3 home games coming up to finish the first half of the season, so look, for us, we're looking to gain as many points as we can and just keep the pressure on the top of the table. There's some big clashes in the Premiership this week, so for us, we just need to keep the pressure on, keep winning games, keep putting performances in. But Saturday will be tough. Look, Musselburgh have started the season really well, won their last 3 games, won twice in the Borders already this season, so look, we're not taking it lightly. We're working extremely hard at training this week and just again fixing the little things that we need to get right for Saturday. But Musselburgh have a direct way in playing. They've got some classy players in there, big physical side. So defensively we need to be there again. We need to get off the line and try and shut them down and put some pressure on them. So we're looking forward to the game, to be back at home and looking for another big home performance.
Now, you mentioned there, of course, about having 3 home games in a row, and that's because Heriots has been reversed, isn't it?
Yeah, that game's been reversed, so they have the beauty of having 3 home games to finish the campaign. I don't know if that's actually going to mean they've got 3 away games to finish the whole campaign. Sorry, the first turn of the league fixtures obviously ends with 3. I think it's Musselburgh, Heriots and then Selkirk is what Hawick have. So then leading up to the end, yes, it's Musselburgh, Heriots and Selkirk away, in January, February. So that could be a difficult end of the season for Hawick. But I think, they've got the team going into this game, against Musselburgh, who've had better results. They're having a better campaign so far. Hawick probably just have a little bit more across the pitch than what Musselburgh have. You heard Matty speaking there about the partnership with Lee Armstrong and Andrew Mitchell, which is something that perhaps we looked at wondering who would plug the gap for Ethan Riley. Now you're bringing back a Scotland Club international player from a season or so out. Lee Armstrong is a brilliant player, and he's obviously lending his experience. And Andrew Mitchell, he's no young pup anymore. He's a lot is expected of him at Hawick, and they're obviously working really well together. So I feel that perhaps Hawick just have a little bit too much in terms of their whole repertoire than what Musselburgh do. But that's exactly what Matty Douglas was saying. If they concentrate on themselves, then they can pick up as many points as possible in the next 2 games.
And as you say, with that centre partnership, Andrew Mitchell hat-trick last week, really enjoying his rugby and enjoying playing with Lee Armstrong and sort of rubbing off each other.
Yeah, last year the partnership between Andrew Mitchell and Ethan Riley was almost the main point, in terms of the Hawick success. It was like the last point in that squad that had got so far and so close on previous occasions. Ethan Riley was almost the player that completed the jigsaw puzzle. So when he left, there was obviously that question as to who plugs the gap. Lee Armstrong obviously brings in a lot of experience in, from his time in the first team in Hawick. He's played Scotland Club International, as I've said before, but Andrew Mitchell, you were saying there about enjoying his rugby, and I think it's really important that this was a young individual who a lot was expected of him at a young age. Obviously went to the Southern Knights to play semi-professional rugby. I don't think he got the break that he deserved, and for that it's Hawick that are reaping the benefits, because he's back at his hometown club playing with his friends, and enjoying his rugby. So it's a win for Hawick, but perhaps it's something that Southern Knights will be kicking themselves at, because it's a great player that's passed them by.
And we've been here before, haven't we? Hawick protecting that 4-year-old home record.
Yeah, and it was obviously tested by Currie in the first half, and then Hawick showed their class and their strength, and and backs to the wall, came out swinging. I think these games are perhaps more favourable for Hawick. Selkirk, at the end of this 3-game run, Selkirk have been a team over the last few years which has caused Hawick problems. I just don't see it this year. I just don't see it happening at all. So these games, you wouldn't be surprised if at the end of this Hawick have picked up 15 points. Weather will have an impact on that. Maybe some personnel as well. And obviously contentious decisions and what have you. But you would not be surprised in a few weeks' time if we're sitting here and Hawick are top of the table. Somebody slipped up and they've had 15 points in the bag at the turn.
Of course, no Bill McLaren Shield on offer at the moment because that's bolted to the wall at Marr. I was down at Fullerton Park on Monday and they were very, very pleased to have that, and we'll come to that match in a second. But Musselburgh, having beaten Heriot's Blues, I don't think they've beaten Hawick, have they?
It's the same conversation as we had about Heriot's. Hawick are in the same conversation as the Nails. They've been at the top of club rugby for a long, long time. Musselburgh have had a journey through, so they're going to have to work hard to get these scalps and get these victories. Now, they've been in the Premiership for a while now. They've been, floating about that area for a while and been able to build a really, really strong club. But it's great that they actually acknowledge and recognise these big wins against Heriots. I wouldn't be surprised if it was another one that Musselburgh will be aiming for a scalp.
And they are scoring tries. We've seen this.
Yeah, Musselburgh are a slightly different team as to what they were last year. They've not changed too much in terms of personnel, but in terms of the rugby that they're playing and the results that they're able to dig out, they've been brilliant. I think keeping Beddenhurst has been a big plus for them. I think he's a phenomenal player. Obviously played a bit of Super Series and he was then in the South as well. But, just his athleticism, his size, his engine around the park as well. Sometimes you just need a player like that to lift the standards at a club. And, he's certainly had that impact at Musselburgh.
Kelso will play Edinburgh Accies on Saturday, both teams wanting to get back to winning ways. Let's hear from Kelso Director of Rugby, Neil Hinnigan.
Yeah, another game comes thick and fast. This weekend we play Edinburgh Accies at home. Obviously we're looking for an improved performance on last week. Still hurting a bit from that. Quite a disappointing day all round really. Probably did enough in the 60 minutes to win it, but then didn't get there in the end, and we had chances. I think Bruce McNeill missed an opportunity. Robbie Tweedy, when he kicked the ball out, had an opportunity, and then obviously there was a try disallowed, which Murray Woodcock scores obviously, but the ARs and the referee didn't give it. I think everyone on the ground thought it was a try, but sometimes you get that and you just got to take it on the chin and move on. And as I say, we had numerous other chances, so it's just overall just disappointing that we didn't get there. But we didn't see out the last 20 very well, and our kicking game was poor, but Selkirk's kicking game was very good. On that side of things, from a Selkirk point of view, they were, maybe out of it first half, but second half they were superb, and they just done a typical border style performance where they just stuck in, gave themselves an opportunity to win the game, and then they took it. So you got to give a lot of credit to Selkirk there, and it was a good win for them. But from our point of view, yep, it wasn't great, but hopefully the younger guys have learned a lot from it, and the older guys like Frankie, Andy, Tate, Bruce McNeill, Keith Melbourne, Grant Shields, these guys are hurting. The rest of the team is young and learning, but overall hopefully we've learned a lot from that. This weekend we're missing a few players through one thing or another. James Gordonians and Grant Shields are both unavailable. Charlie Marshall picked up a bad injury last week, so he could be out for a good while. Robbie Tweedy got a slight head knock, and we just don't want to take any chances, so he's sitting this one out. Cammy Thompson, Archie Cowens and Angus Roberts still aren't available. So that means that we've got to do a bit of reshuffling here or there, but still it gives opportunities to others, and we're looking for people to step up and take them, and there's a big pool of players at Kelso, so there'll be some one or two people get an opportunity. So Angus McGregor comes in at loose head. He had a good day a couple of weeks ago away to Marr, and he's a Scotland 20s prospect, so it's a huge positive to get him on the field again, get him another start, and hopefully he goes well, and then hopefully the whole team goes well, and maybe get a bit of luck our way. Hopefully it would be good, and we can maybe get a win this weekend to get some points back on the board, because we're obviously behind schedule now where we'd like to be, and after what we felt we dropped points last week. So points are what we need now. We'll be looking at performance, but maybe points is more important. So hopefully this weekend's our weekend.
This has the makings of a very tight game, because we've seen Edinburgh Accies lose very narrowly at home to Hawick and also to Marr, and they'll be really hurting for that, and they'll want to go to Kelso and target this one, particularly after seeing Selkirk winning at Kelso last week.
Yeah, and I think if Edinburgh Accies hit 7 games and they've lost 4 of them, that would be a huge blow to any aspirations of getting in that top 4, and Kelso will know that, going into this weekend, perhaps not had... they've not had the best start, but they've not had the worst start. There's 2 games in there that they could have won. There's 2 games they could have lost because obviously they drew them. They've picked up 1 win. And this is a good game, I think, for them. Edinburgh Accies are a team that like to play a good brand of rugby, and I feel that attritional style that Kelso do have, especially at home, will rattle Edinburgh Accies slightly. They've already been, Edinburgh Accies have already been at Riverside. They know what to expect in a border derby. They've got loads of experience, travelling to the borders, heavily immersed in the Kings of the Sevens. They know the clubs well, so they're not going to be shocked by coming to Poynter Park. But it's one of those that I just love listening to Neil Hinnigan as well in terms of his idea and his direction, speaking about their targets, where they want to be. There's a real direction and a real focus for the players, and I think that's important to have in a club. It's not like we'll just swing the bat and see where we'll end up. They've had a points target that they've wanted to have round about this time, and they're behind it, and they know that, so they're trying to change the focus, win by all means, get some points on the board, and then they can start to build from there. So it's great to listen to Neil, and obviously speaking about where he wants Kelso to be, but this is one game where I think will suit Kelso certainly.
The big match screams out at you, Marr versus Currie at Fullerton Park. Currie's game off last week, so they dropped to third with Hawick taking second spot. Marr proudly displaying the Bill McLaren shield, as I mentioned earlier. Here's head coach of Marr, Kenny Diffenthal.
Last week against Accies, we just didn't turn up until half time. We made too many errors, but credit to Accies, they bullied us for the first 20 odd minutes, so we found ourselves behind pretty early on. Great to see the guys fight back and get back into the game. Really proud of the boys' fight at the end to see out the game as well. So pretty chuffed on that. This week against Currie, it's going to be another massive challenge for us. It does not come any tougher than this. Mark will have his boys well prepped coming to Fullerton. We just need to make sure that we right the wrongs from last week and can't afford to start as poorly as we did last week. Stephen and myself have worked pretty hard this week, making sure that we try and cover all the bases from the shortfallings of the first 20 minutes last week. So hopefully we can put that into practice this week and make it into a good contest.
Kenny Diffenthal. Marr don't get beaten that often at home. They saw off Hawick, which is probably their best performance of the season so far. Can they do it against Currie?
I think you know what I'm going to say here. I'm going to ask you to predict what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to crack on anyway, because home form is pivotal in this top four battle. It's paramount that Marr pick up a victory, against Currie at home, because it'll allow them to really consolidate that place. If you look at they're 5 points ahead. Yes, they've got that game in hand at the moment. Currie on Marr. If they're able to stretch that gives them a real good footing at the top of the table in terms of progressing towards the turn and then eyeing up the fixtures for the rest of the season. This is a huge game. We have said it. We kind of said about the games when Edinburgh Accies hosted Marr last weekend. We alluded to the fact how important these games are. In terms of winning your home games against your nearest rivals to make sure that you've got a chance going away from home to steal something, anything. Now Marr have already beaten Edinburgh Accies on the road, so they've already stolen as much as they can from them. It is then a matter, it's almost now that we're not talking about Edinburgh Accies, we're talking about those three clubs. We're talking about Marr, Hawick and Currie. Those home and away fixtures are going to be huge. So Hawick have already beaten Currie at home. Marr have the opportunity to beat Currie at home this weekend. They've already got the scalp of Hawick as well, so home form is going to be pivotal in who's going to finish 1, 2 and 3 in this division. I think 4 could be whoever wants it the most in this division at the moment. I still fancy Edinburgh Accies to come good, but this is a huge game for Marr going into this weekend. And listen to Kenny there as well, speaking about their focus this week is in terms of they didn't start that well last weekend. They gave the team a chance that they perhaps felt they were gifting them. They want to right the wrongs against that, because Currie, if you give them a chance, I don't think they'll let up. So yeah, it's a big game at Fullerton.
And Currie will be really disappointed that their game was off for last week, because they wanted to right the wrongs from the Mansfield Park match and take on Glasgow Hawks at Millennium Park, and they would have focused on a big win there ahead of Marr. They haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's probably a catch-22. That a game at home against Glasgow Hawks would be a good one to react against, but they've also then had 2 weeks to replenish. They've had a bit of time to rest, recover, and go away from home a little less pressure, because I think that after the defeat against Hawick and Marr sitting top of the table, hopefully I don't offend anybody from Marr or Currie, but you would say that Marr going to its favourites, just going on league position, and obviously Currie were defeated by Hawick, so you've got to say that the pressure's slightly off Currie. I don't think they would looked at last week's game being off as a bad thing. I think they'll use it as a positive, and they'll be able to focus their minds. As soon as they'd known on Saturday, they'll start focusing towards Marr. It gives them a longer lead in. Marr were still focusing on Edinburgh Accies at the time, where Currie started shifting their attentions to the next again weekend. So it's perhaps it could be a great thing for Currie that they were able to rest the legs.
The other game in the Premiership, Selkirk versus Heriot's Blues. That's 7th against 4th, 9 points between them. Big chance for Selkirk to close the gap. Here's Selkirk head coach Sesh Henderson.
Last week's game, outstanding win for us on the road at Kelso. I have to say that the pitch was in outstanding condition after the weather we had over that weekend. And what I was delighted about was the cohesive defensive effort of the guys, especially in that second half, to get them to nil. I think that effort allowed us to get back into the game and get our attack moving. And we scored a really good try in the second half with Allan, who's been playing really well for us just now. Then we scored, I thought, probably one of the best tries of the season for us so far with Allan and the continuity between about 4 or 5 players to get over the line was outstanding. But never at the end, with 2 minutes to go, we scored that, and but again, the defensive effort of the last 2 or 3 minutes was where we wanted it to be, and it got us over the line. So a few individuals really fronted up, and we need to take this confidence and this belief forward into this week's game against Heriot's at home. Obviously another tough game for us, but we know what we can do now in terms of our attack shape and our defensive shapes. I think we just need to we're working hard during the week to make that better all the time. And hopefully I've got a couple of injuries to come through this week, so there shouldn't be too many changes this week. Hopefully we're Saturday, we look forward to another good performance against Heriot's, and it's all about getting points every week, and we're confident we can do that if we play to our standards that we can. So we're looking forward to that, and Saturday can't really come quick enough.
Sesh Henderson. So Heriot's Blues ran Musselburgh close last week after a slow start. Selkirk also had the slow start at Kelso, but won the match. Hard to predict this one again, but you got this home advantage.
Yeah, it definitely is. The first thing that I found remarkable about that was plaudits towards the groundsman. Obviously at Kelso, torrential rain, they're as equally as important as the players, so it's great that that's acknowledged by Sesh Henderson there, because it takes hours of work to make sure that the pitches are in good condition for the players to play in.
Yeah, Jimmy Roberts, let's name names, he's the grounds person at Kelso, and we did actually acknowledge that. It was superb, it really was. You turned up at Poynter Park and you would think, this is going to be a bit of a ploughed field today. Not a bit of it. It was absolutely pristine. Yeah, well, it's better than the pitch at Newton Stewart, because I watched that game streamed, and I looked at some of the photos as well, and there were times that you could almost barely see the top of the ball when they were kicking penalties. So it's great, and I know there's a lot of people take a lot of pride in the pitches as well. So great to see, and great for Sesh to mention that as well. But a huge game this weekend for Selkirk, because it's a really important game for Selkirk this weekend, just to try and get that continuity into their season, because after the back of that defeat against Musselburgh, a game where they were on top for an hour and let Musselburgh come back into it and just kind of squeeze them a little bit too much, they were then able to go down to Poynter Park and almost flip the coin and be able to do that to Kelso and win a game that they perhaps shouldn't have won. So they need to try and find the balance now, and obviously at home against Heriot's, try and make home advantage count, get that win, get the crowd behind you, and try and put in a good performance. I do think that perhaps the games and I might be wrong come the end of the season, but the games for the teams towards the foot of the table, they'll all take points off each other. They might just be fortunate that there might be a team that's going to be worse than the rest of them this year. So it's it's an important game for Selkirk to try and get a little bit of continuity and a little bit of a good vibe in the club, but it's maybe not going to be pivotal to their survival chances this season. Okay, that's the Premiership done and dusted. Let's move on to National 1 and the results from last week. First of all, Dundee 24, GHK 16, and a second win for Dundee.
Yeah, Dundee have obviously been able to put a couple of wins on the board, and they've been on the back of some really big defeats this season, so they're a relatively new club. in terms of the way that they've amalgamated and tried to shift the direction of rugby in Dundee. So, to get that culture, to get that whole vibe in your club's going to be difficult to happen overnight. But, they're obviously putting some good performances, a couple of wins, and they'll be happy. There's a little bit of a cushion between them and Biggar at the bottom.
Gala 15, Ayr 28. Gala hard to beat at home. Ayr now 6 out of 6.
Yeah, Gala really hard to beat at home, and they've had indifferent performances, but Ayr just showing again that when they're in tight battles and tight games, they've got just another couple of gears to be able to just shift through and push on. And I think Ayr certainly mean business. They know that they're going to just try as much as they can, I feel, to wrap this league up as quick as possible. I think that anybody that's going to test them this year is getting swept aside. You think about the games against Melrose, they came down to the Green Yards and swept them aside. They've had tight games against Watsonians and Gala, but those games they were able to pull away. They were just able to just as I say, go up the gears, show their strength and depth in the squad and their experience, and just brush them aside. So, obviously it's been a brilliant start to the season for Ayr.
In the last 3 or 4 years, we've been talking about the National 1 League being the gift that keeps giving, but not this year really, because Ayr are kind of in a class of their own at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, but I don't see that changing. But National 1 over the last few years has been brilliant to cover. It's been brilliant to be even involved in and watch and speak about it with the different people at the different clubs, because you were getting to about February and you still didn't have a clue who was going to be going up. And you looked at the fixtures, especially last year with Kelso, there were so many permutations that could have happened for any side, and then one by one, big games were coming and a team were dropping off. I don't think we'll get the joy of that in National 1 this year, but we will get it in other divisions. We'll get it for the race for the playoffs, we'll get it in National 2, looks really exciting at the top as well. And National 3, I think National 3 looks really exciting as well, with the likes of Boroughmuir and Orkney in there, and obviously Garnock as well. So, all those teams are going really well in those divisions. So it might not be National 1's year. It might be tighter at the bottom this year as opposed to up at the top, but it's certainly been an exciting league over the last few years.
Highland 17, Melrose 11. Highland were 14-3 up and kind of snuffed Melrose out, really. They always kept them at arm's length, you felt. And Melrose 3 losses out of 6 now, which could be pretty critical.
Yeah, I think you could ill afford to lose half of your games, and realistically think that you're in with a shout to get promoted. We did say this before last weekend. Realistically there was a chance he'd be X amount of points behind Ayr. It just happens that X amount of points is 12. That is a huge margin to try and overturn against a team who's in form. I just don't see where Ayr are going to be dropping that many points, and not picking up 5-point victories. They've got such a big pack, experienced pack, and they've got sharp players behind the scrum, and they've got game players and players that know where to play rugby. Ayr just have that culture through their whole squad. So I just don't see where they're going to be dropping as many points for Melrose to then find the consistency to overtake them. But for Highland, that's a huge win, because it keeps them on their coattails. It means that they're still in the hunt, and those home and away games against Ayr are going to be critical. We did say about Highland not being able to travel, but they went to Biggar, they picked up a really important victory, then playing one of the teams who will be there or thereabouts in the promotion hunt, Melrose. They've brushed them aside as well. So those games at home and away against Ayr are going to be important.
Very much so. 2 games were off in National 1. Glasgow Accies against Biggar and Watsonians versus GHA. They will be played at a later date. Let's have a look at the league table then. Obviously, with 4 teams not playing, it's a little bit stagger unwind time again. But Ayr at the top, played 6, won 6, 29 points. So they lost their 100% record at Gala by not getting the 4 tries for the first time, leaving Garnock as the only team with 100%, as we mentioned at the top of the programme. Highland in second, though, on 23, and then a big 6 points to Melrose in third on 17. GHA have 17. Glasgow Accies also have 17. So between third, fourth and fifth, it's all down to points differences there. Gala are in sixth with 12 points. Watsonians in seventh on 11. Dundee in 8th on 11, GHK in 9th place on 10, and Biggar at the bottom with 5 points, something we still can't understand. They haven't won, but they've got 2 try bonuses and critically 3 losing bonuses, which tells you they were close matches.
Yeah, they've definitely been there or thereabouts. I just think that, we were speaking about the top of the division and how over the last few years it's been really exciting. Biggar are not down and out yet. Although they're bottom of the table, they've not picked up a victory, where everybody's got at least 2. I think the bottom of that table is going to be as intriguing as what the top has been over the last few years. Biggar will pick up wins. They will definitely pick up wins when they bring some players back, and then they start to just swallow in those teams. And you look up there to probably Gala in 6th. They've got 12 points. There's not a lot separating 6, 7, 8, 9. And then there's a little gap to 10, but I think that'll be swallowed up pretty quickly, and they'll all be engulfed in a little relegation battle, because it's a competitive league, and that's the thing. Any day there's a team there that can pick up a victory. The only thing is the now Ayr are probably head and shoulders above everybody else.
Well, this Saturday's games in National 1, starting with Ayr versus GHA, first versus third, so pretty attractive fixture. Reaction from Ayr head coach, and that's Grant Anderson.
Looking back to last week, we were really, really pleased with that result, given everything that was going on in the country with the weather. I'm obviously from the West Coast, so I'm from Garnock myself, and I actually managed to get the last train out of Inverclyde before they all get cancelled and you couldn't drive out, so we were pleased to get on the road and get down to Gala, and actually their pitch was phenomenal given the weather and circumstances, so we were really happy with that. A game down at Netherdale is always one that could potentially go one way or another. I've played really well down there and lost, and I've also played terribly down there years ago and won, so I was pleased that we came away with the victory. I think that'll go a long way for us this season, and the kind of resilience and mentality that took, because we weren't sure if it was going to get called off, and other games were getting called off, and boys are hearing this, that and the next thing on the way down in the bus. But the challenge for us down there on Saturday was the game was more about mentality, top 2 inches rather than actual application. So to come away with the 4 points, I was pleased. We actually had a 17-year-old play 80 minutes in the second row, and you'll have seen Pete McCallum was in the second row as well, so we actually didn't have a fit second row to play. I was really pleased with our scrum dominance. That's been a real feature for us this season, but again, with those changes in the squad, Pete obviously played 15 minutes for the Bulls the night before, and so did our 9, Ben Frame. So we had guys that were tired, were carrying quite a lot of injuries, this, that and the next thing. I was pleased. Our attention obviously turns to Saturday. We're back home at Millbrae. We've got GHA coming, who obviously didn't play last week, so they'll be keen, they'll be fired up. I'm well aware that we now have a bit of a target on our back, but it's kind of always been the way. Down at Ayr, certainly when I played, and now we're not anybody's favourite team to play against, and no one likes coming to Millbrae. We're well aware of that, but we just need to use that kind of mindset to our advantage. I'm pleased to say that our captain, our second row, so Cam Rees, probably our most influential player, he returns from injury this weekend, and we're all really looking forward to that. The whole squad, the whole club in fact, will get a massive boost as a result of that, because we were a bit gutted when he injured himself in pre-season, so that'll really give the boys a lift. Also help our line-out function, I'm hoping so, and our go-forward ball, so he adds so much to the squad. So I'm delighted to announce that he'll be back, and also we've got 1 or 2 other guys as well, kind of on the periphery, who are returning as well. So really pleased. I've been delighted with how the squad as a whole, 1s and 2s, have kind of come together, because we have been struggling quite badly with injuries, and people have come in, taken their chance. And when they haven't taken their chance, then perhaps they've gone back to the 2s group, and they've shown real positive attitude and tried to right a few wrongs. So the group itself is doing really well. The second 15 actually haven't conceded a point in the games that they've played. So we're in a good place. We want to keep the ball rolling. We'll do our homework with GHA. We've done a wee bit already. We'll look to obviously pinpoint where we think there's opportunities for us, and we'll look to kind of exert our game, our power game onto them, and ask them ultimately questions that hopefully they can't answer. We're looking forward to the game, and hopefully again another win for us, and another win under the belt would be ideal.
Grant Anderson, can they make it 7 in a row? They've got home advantage.
Yeah, I think they definitely will go into this weekend as favourites again. GHA will be difficult, but you can hear there when he's speaking about the depth of that squad, welcoming players back, and they're bursting at the seams with players in the West Coast. So yeah, I think this will be another weekend where they'll certainly be able to pick up the win. They'll be aiming for the bonus point, but that's not to count out GHA by any means. They're a team that have come down from the Premiership, and they've got a lot of experience within their ranks. So this will be a game that they'll definitely get up for. They'll be looking to try and get a scalp as well, and do the other teams in the division a favour. I just don't see where Ayr are going to slip up, but it might just be this weekend and make National 1 a little bit more interesting at the top.
Biggar versus Dundee. Dundee now, as we mentioned, have won twice. Biggar yet to record the win, but Hartlepool this time. And we keep bigging them up, saying they're going to have a win, they're going to have a win. Can it be this week?
I think it needs to be, in terms of when you look at the table, that would condense it quite quickly. I did say that I feel that there's a win coming from Biggar at some point. If they get the win this weekend, it condenses that league a little bit more. It allows them to try and get a little bit of momentum, put numerical pressure on the teams above them. And Constantina's that division at the bottom just a little bit more neatly for them. And then it's a matter of just making sure home form counts. So I think that this is one of those games that Biggar will be targeting. They probably weren't going to be targeting at the beginning of the season. It would be something on paper that they would heavily fancy themselves in, but it just happens that they're in a little bit of a dogfight at the moment. So, a good win, starving Dundee of points, will mean that Biggar can kind of close the gap at the bottom.
Gala versus Highland. Maroons came up short against the league leaders last weekend. Now they welcome second placed Highland. Director of Rugby at Gala, who's in Paris at the moment, Ewan Swinton.
Our game against Ayr last week was particularly encouraging for Gala. We had been expected to be fairly heavily beaten and dominated by an Ayr side which is going great guns and had full points up to last Saturday. We were able to take them on in almost every area of the game. They dominated scrums, to be honest, up until the 65-minute mark, but when we got past then, we were certainly their equal there too. We spent most of the second half in Ayr territory, and I think that what came through was that Ayr were a side who are used to winning and took their opportunities, whereas we're a side who are not perhaps winning every week at the moment and are less confident in putting away the chances that come our way. So we could have done much better in terms of a result, but the performance was one that we were really pleased with. We had some tremendous play in the forwards from the likes of Cammy Pate, who put in an absolutely barnstorming performance. So much to be confident about as we head on to playing a match against Highland this weekend. Highland are also going fantastically well. They are second in the table, I believe. Their forwards are much improved and they have an exciting set of backs who are able to score tries from all over the park. To be honest, that's a very welcome opposition for us. We can take them on in the forwards. I'm quite sure of that. We are seeing real improvements from the work that you and Robbie is putting in with the boys, and these improvements are going to continue. We have definitely got potential to be much better than we are currently showing. So we expect to have parity in the forwards at least, and our backs are also an exciting set of runners, and there's every reason to believe that we can get the better of Highland. So it's a game that I think people will enjoy watching. I think that there's the potential for a lot of tries. I certainly hope there are a lot of tries. I hope that most of them come the way of Gala. But I do feel very confident that despite Highland's better position in the league, that we can give them a very tough visit to Gala and come out of the game with a win.
Gala versus Highland at Netherdale. And I think if Highland come down and travel well and beat Gala, then we'll never call them bad travellers again.
Yeah, this is a test. Ewan Swinton was saying there, they want to try and make it difficult for them to come into Gala. It's difficult for me to go out of Gala because there's a McDonald's on the left-hand side on the road to Peebles. But this is one of those games that exactly I was thinking that, Stuart, that Highland have notoriously been a team that have played really well at home, especially they've got the artificial surface there, but on the road they've found it quite difficult to get that consistency. I think that Gala have played pretty well at home this season, in contrast to when we were talking about this before. We were talking about the game at Hartlepool against Biggar, and Highland walked away with a decent victory. This is a different game. I think Gala have been playing well at home, perhaps a bit disjointed away from home. They've run the league leaders close, and I just think that this is probably more of a challenge for Highland. It'll be an intriguing game. It will give us a level as to see how well Highland are equipped this year, if they can realistically put pressure on Ayr at the top. But it's a big game in terms of looking at the top of that division. If you think that Highland are going to slip up and Ayr get a win, Ayr are coasting after that, if that's the way the results go. But if Highland are able to pick up the victory, then at least keep some of the coattails.
GHK versus Watsonians, 9th against 7th, but only 1 point separating them.
Yeah, again, two teams that have been disjointed. You know, it's good to see in this division so many teams have picked up victories, but it just shows that they're all just taking points off of each other at the moment. It's quite congested from third down to ninth. There's 7 points separating them all. You know, yes, there's been 6 games gone, but you know, there's not a lot separating all those sides. So this is another game where we'll start to see the league start to settle out a little bit more. GHK, along with Watsonians, are involved in a bit of a battle at the bottom, so points are going to be paramount this weekend for both sides.
Here's an intriguing one. Melrose versus Glasgow Accies, third against fifth, both on 17 points. We caught up with Ian Chisholm, head coach of Melrose.
We're disappointed with the result in Inverness against Highland. If we're honest with ourselves, maybe on another day and a different referee, we'd have been penalised more at scrum time. That's the situation that we're in at the moment, with losing Jack Dobie to the Knights and Callum Cruikshank to Edinburgh Accies. We knew it was going to be an area that we'd probably have to put a little bit more work into, and that we'd struggle. And look, for the majority of the games this season, we've been going backwards, and you can see it every game. We're starting to get closer and closer, and there are teams and oppositions that we've had opportunities to launch against, and those are the ones that we've won quite convincingly. Whereas we come up against the Highland in an air, and you know, they've got a huge pack, and we were just going backwards. But look, you've got to see the positives through that as well. You know, a lot of 18-year-olds, a lot of teenagers in the pack, and you've got the likes of Lachlan Gaddy, who's getting better and better every week. And you know, he's learning to manage the back of the scrum and cope with ball in, ball out, and let's get us on the move. But a lot of that time that we're going backwards, it's scrappy, and we're having to put backs into that initial breakdown to go and protect Lachlan, and from there it's a bit of a struggle to get into shape and get into a launch. So we're working on this. The guys are working really hard scrummaging wise. We do have a lot of unavailabilities at the moment that may change things, and we've just had a new player come in, Gershom McKendy, who's also from the Arrows, looking for a bit more experience, and he's raw. He's not played an awful lot of rugby, but he has a tight head prop, which is really going to benefit us. And however, we're yet to see his ability and what he's like. So Tuesday night was good. Robbie Brown, our forwards coach, he was quite happy with what he's seen. Elliot Compton will be back in the mix this week. Will Owen will move over from tight head. He's a lot more comfortable at loose head than he is at tight head, but look, he understands the situation we're in, as do a lot of our leaders and our senior players, where they understand that look, we're building a club, not just a team, and for that we need all these guys around, and we need to make sure that we're all pointing in the right direction, and making sure that we're adding energy to the group rather than taking it away, and that's going to be really important this weekend, playing against Glasgow Accies. I've got a lot of experience facing Glasgow Accies with my time at Highland and Peebles last season. We beat them twice last year. We're the only team to beat them twice last year with Peebles, and I think, you know, if I can come with the same sort of game plan and mentality into that, we'll have a good opportunity. And look, we're at the Green Yards. We love being at the Green Yards, as you've seen from our previous games, and we're not complacent. We understand that, look, they're a good side. They've been surprising a lot of teams. They play good rugby, and I respect that a lot. They've got an identity and they stick to that. And look, they're really well coached with Rory Jackson, Ryan Grant. And look, and if we kick loose to them, like we have done in the past, then we'll struggle. They're awesome in the counter attack, and look, a lot of our week has been built around kick chase and making sure we kick to compete, and that we give ourselves a chance to get the ball back by, rather than gifting them possession. You know, we put the pressure into them. So I can't tell you what the team will be yet, because we're not sure. We've got a rough idea. But excited to be back at the Green Yards. Excited to put right a few wrongs, and the boys are just desperate to show what they're about. They're desperate to get their hands on ball, and look, we produce stats every week for the guys, and the numbers don't lie. The numbers are a good indicator of how hard you're working, and for me, we worked really hard up at Highland. We worked really hard, but at the same time, nothing good comes off bad scrum ball. And look, at some point it's going to click for us. We're going to be able to at least get parity at scrum time, and look at from there. I think we'll be able to launch. And you look at the other games where we have had parity, or we've had a bit of dominance up front, and our backs are really dangerous. We're able to score a lot of tries. We're able to put the opposition under pressure through our running game and build pressure through possession. So excited to welcome Glasgow Accies down to the Green Yards, and I'm sure it'll be a really entertaining game. Both sides looking to throw the ball about.
Now, Accies were hammered at Ayr on the first day of the season. They leaked 60 odd points, but since then 3 wins, a narrow loss. Melrose coming off the back of that loss at Highland, but a win at the Green Yards against Gala. So again, another one full of intrigue. Yeah,
and it's another one that's difficult to call, because you know they've got the same points tally so far. Melrose have perhaps been a little bit consistent as well. Glasgow Accies settling into life in National 1 pretty well, and they've got that game in hand, so you look at that, they'll be, if they are able to pick up a victory here from the game in hand, they can put some pressure on, Ayr at the top as well, because they have been scoring tries, picking up the bonus points as well. So, this is an intriguing game. I think Ian has obviously alluded to it in his build-up there. He's well versed in what Glasgow Accies are like as a club, so he's obviously got that in his back pocket. He's a young coach, but obviously comes with a lot of experience from his time at Highland. And I think it's great that you pointed out last year he was involved with the team that were the only team to beat them twice in the division, and that's a division that they got out of. So it's something that will be to Melrose benefit, but they have to concentrate on playing their own brand of rugby, especially at home. So an intriguing one, really, really hard to call.
OK, let's move on to National League 2 then, and the only two games that beat the weather were two really important ones. Lasswade 7, Gordonians 22, and Newton Stewart 26, Peebles 11. Let's look at Lasswade first of all. Their unbeaten record has gone. Gordonians doing very well after promotion from National League 3. A terrific win away from home for Gordonians.
That's a huge win. They've been growing and growing every week ever since they got beaten the opening weekend of the season. So that was Lasswade going into that weekend undefeated, top of the pile, and they've been comprehensively beaten by Gordonians. So obviously they're a team that are riding the crest of a wave at the moment. A lot of confidence in that side. So it's a huge win. First loss for Peter Wright at Lasswade, but it does make things a little bit tighter at the top of that division.
And then Newton Stewart beating Peebles, first and second place, both beaten. So that puts everything into the mix, doesn't it?
From a Peebles point of view, it wasn't much of a spectacle. They didn't play much rugby. They got close on occasion, but there was a couple of times just that pass just didn't stick. They were able to stretch Newton Stewart on a couple of occasions, but just not really able to be clinical enough to get over the line. Desperate defence from Newton Stewart at times, but there was just then silly penalties coming in. Two occasions as well that the winger on the Peebles side got exploited, and they've got one try off of it, and then the second try Newton Stewart got was a penalty try because they were trying to tackle before the ball was in the hands of the player. So after that, Newton Stewart were in control, Peebles were chasing, and they found it really difficult to get any continuity, any steadiness in that game. So it was a great victory for Newton Stewart, a team who we said were kind of shadowing themselves last season. They're obviously starting to hit their straps now.
They certainly are. Let's have a look at the table. Lasswade still at the top with 25 points. Peebles still second with 22 points. Then you've got Gordonians now on 21, just ahead of Falkirk on points difference, who also have 21. Newton Stewart now with 4 wins out of 6. They climb the table to 18. And here's the north-south divide, because there's then 7 points gap to Stirling County in 6th with 11, Stuart's Melville on 10, Kirkcaldy on 10, Berwick on 7, and Aberdeen Grammar on 4. Admittedly, the bottom 5 didn't play last week, but we're seeing this, aren't we? The 5 at the top and the 5 at the bottom.
So the division itself, it's interesting at the top. The teams are all capable of taking points off each other, but it's equally can be said about the bottom of the division as well. Obviously propped up at the moment by Aberdeen Grammar, but those clubs have the games that were postponed last weekend. There's a few intriguing fixtures this weekend.
On to this week's fixtures then. There are a couple of matches being played, both games that were postponed from last week. So that means we've got Aberdeen Grammar against Berwick. We've also got Stirling County against Kirkcaldy. The other match, which was Falkirk against Stewmel, that wasn't off because of the weather. That was off because Stewmel couldn't produce a front row, and that's presumably the case for this week as well. So we're left with 2 games for this week in National 2. Aberdeen Grammar against Berwick. Let's hear from forwards coach at Berwick, that's Paul Pringle.
So last week we were due to play Aberdeen Grammar in what, even at this early stage of the season, was pretty much a crunch match for us. Unfortunately, it probably wasn't of any great surprise to us. And now we're into the journey heading north. We were called to tell us that the game had been called off. The pitch was unplayable. So very frustrating day for the boys. Obviously, it's a big commitment, a trip to Aberdeen, and a big expense to the club as well. So that was pretty frustrating, as we felt we were very much up for the game, and we had a pretty strong squad. We have actually had news just today that we have to go back up to Aberdeen this Saturday, which is a really tough one for us, to be honest. We had applied for dispensation to SRU, which is the second occasion this season we have had to do that. We were told, in line with the competition rules, we would have to play in the next available fixture, which is the standby date of this Saturday. Logistically, it's a massive exercise for us. So our bus company comes from about half an hour, 45 minutes south of Berwick. We've got to schedule in that. We've got to schedule a full day away. We leave at 8:30 in the morning. We also need to schedule in driver stops because obviously they can only drive for a permitted time. And it just makes the whole thing a bit of a mammoth task. So for an amateur club to arrange this with a few days' notice is pretty tough going. I would say, as a coaching team, we're pretty frustrated by this. This is an amateur game, I think we need to remember, and with clubs struggling with playing numbers as it is. What was a standby week, guys were there. A lot of guys are having to cancel plans. A lot of guys are away on holiday with families. To try and gather a squad for this Saturday, and like I said, in a crunch match for us, is going to be really difficult. I appreciate the competition rules, but in some occasions it looks like there is a bit of a common sense approach being applied. So I see Falkirk Stu Mel was cancelled last week because of insufficient front row for Stu Mel, and it looks like they've been given additional time to let these players recover. I know that they're not rescheduled into the first available week. I would have hoped some sort of the same common sense approach might have been applied to us, but unfortunately not. We're in a position now we just need to get up to Aberdeen and get the result. We're still waiting on confirmation of our logistics, like the bus travel, etc. As I say, we're waiting on final playing numbers. It may be a bit of a makeshift squad we need to take up, but I'm sure the lads that we pick will do their best. We'll just have to see what comes out of it.
Paul, very, very frustrated, as I'm sure are the members of the club. The rules are there, and we can see that. But as he says, a bit of common sense now and again might be a good thing.
Yeah, and I hope they get the bus sorted because it's a long bloody walk for Berwick up to Aberdeen. But I'm sure they were. I can see his frustration. I do. It is logistically a nightmare to try and do that in a short window, so I do sympathise with him. He's completely right. There does need to be more of a common sense approach, but it's difficult to try and change the tide of the competition rules and stuff. They do seem quite archaic at times. Sometimes I think the two clubs involved, should have more control in terms of when that's going to be played.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because realistically, looking at this fixture, this could be a more intriguing fixture in a couple of months' time as opposed to this weekend. This game could be played and it could have huge ramifications in terms of where Berwick are going to end up playing. If they go up with a patched up squad and Aberdeen Grammar have been getting progressively better over the last few weeks, we could be looking at the fact that Berwick could get defeated on the road. If it comes down to the fact that they get relegated by 3 points, they'll look back on that fixture thinking we could have done something about that if we were given a fairer shot. Geographically, that's just the hand that you're dealt, but there does need to be more common sense, because I think these two clubs could have squeezed this game in, in terms of their own commitments and given Berwick a little bit more time to prepare to go up. Now, Aberdeen Grammar, when I was playing rugby, if I knew the opposition were having those challenges, I'd be buzzing, because you'd be like, right, they're not going to be in the right frame of mind and they're going to be ill prepared, they're going to be frustrated. Sometimes that can play against you as well, but I think Aberdeen Grammar will sympathise with them as well, and they'll want to play it fairly. So definitely, I think there does need to be a little bit more control, a little bit more autonomy given to the clubs for these circumstances, because the robustness of saying you play in these standby dates is it's a little bit archaic, a little bit old school, and perhaps the clubs should have more penalties if they don't get the game played. I don't think national rugby were in danger of not playing games. If you go down the regionals, yes, I think you would probably have teams pulling out, but the teams at this level, National 1 down to National 4, and certainly in the Premiership as well, if they were given a little bit more control, I think you could potentially have a better product.
OK, what about on the pitch then? Let's assume Berwick make it to Rubyslaw. Aberdeen Grammar against Berwick. Both teams looking for their first win of the season. Aberdeen 3 try bonuses and 1 losing bonus, and that all came in the first 4 games.
It's difficult to call, in terms of how it's going to go on the pitch because of the kind of false start Berwick have got off to already, and they're saying there about players being unavailable, trying to get the bus organised. That could be a nightmare for preparation this week, because it's a club game. Volunteers have to organise this stuff, and it might impact in terms of who's available on the coaching days and how they're prepared during the week. It's going to depend on who Berwick can fire up to Rubyslaw. However, this did happen to them before at Stirling County, and they put him in a really good performance. At the time, we probably thought Stirling County were better than what they perhaps have been so far this season, but Berwick will be competitive. We know they will be, and they'll have an axe to grind. They'll want to go up there and make a point, which perhaps makes this fixture ever more intriguing. However, Aberdeen Grammar have been progressively improving over the last few weeks, so it's going to be an interesting game. It's vital. We said it last week, in terms of starving the opposition of points. It's still the same case because nothing's changed in the landscape at the bottom of that division.
And dispensation was also applied for the Stirling County game against Kirkcaldy at Bridge Hall. It was also turned down, so the game goes ahead. Let's find out the thoughts from Stirling coach Craig Deakins.
Obviously last weekend the weather warning that was out for the central band on early Saturday morning hit us pretty bad. As expected, the rain that was forecast did come. We did a pitch inspection at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was looking pretty doubtful at that point because the pitches were sailing, so unfortunately the game had to get called off. The game has been rescheduled to this weekend, so the good thing for us, we're looking at pretty much an unchanged team sheet from the team that was due to go out last weekend. So again, we are quite excited about having a few of the key boys back in the mix, especially guys like Ben Yarrow will be playing at 13 for us this weekend. Monty, our captain, he will be playing at number 8. These two guys obviously lead by example, and certainly hopefully the guys will pull a team together. Boys have also had a really good training so far this week. We're pretty excited about playing. It was a wee bit unexpected actually, because we'd already been contacted by Kirkcaldy on the Sunday asking us if it would be possible to move the rescheduled fixture from this weekend to later in November. So we're going to go with the 25th of November, which was another free weekend, but unfortunately so you have kicked that back, which I'm a bit frustrated about. I know there's reasons for it probably, but both clubs had come to an agreement that they were quite happy to do that. Kirkcaldy did get in touch with us. They were honest that they had players away off to the World Cup. It's quite a quick turnaround, obviously, from last weekend to this weekend. It was a free weekend, but these things happen. But the good thing is, we've had a really good week at training. So the boys are really excited about getting on the pitch this weekend, and we know what to expect with Kirkcaldy. You're a big, physical, well-drilled team. They'll be coming to Stirling County in the weekend, quite excited. Morale will be high after a couple of good wins for them, so they're going to have their tails up. So look forward to seeing what they can bring to Bridge Hall. But I know that we're prepared, that we want to have a bit of a reaction from our players. We've not had the best of starts to the season. We've had a run of bad results, so hopefully we're going to be put that right this weekend.
Okay, so as he was mentioning there, both clubs agreeing to November, and we won't go over the old ground again, but it's basically the same thing as you were saying a few minutes ago. That was Craig Deakins, Stirling County. Stirling County won their first 2 matches, lost their last 3. They'll be certainly up for this one at Bridge Hall, trying to get the wheels back on the bus, and they're playing Kirkcaldy.
Yeah, they'll be wanting to try and just get away from the foot of that table, especially, at the end of the weekend, if it's a little bit more congested at the bottom of that pile as well. They'll certainly want to put in a good performance and pick up a victory. Equally, Kirkcaldy will be wanting to do that as well. I can, again, hear their frustration. I don't fully understand the kind of rigmarole around these free weekends, why the clubs, if they come to an agreement, why they can't then decide just to play them when they want to play them, because it's only the benefit of the clubs, really. It's the benefit of the players. You're growing the game. You're not pissing anybody off, really. You're making sure that the players and the clubs are happy. So, if they feel they've got a little bit more autonomy, then you'll get a better product. However, they are where they are. Stirling County seem happy that they've got to be able to be in the position that they can name the same squad again. They can go again and play the same squad that was meant to play last weekend. But Kirkcaldy, there's obviously going to be a few changes, and I think Stirling County will be licking their lips at the prospect of playing a weakened Kirkcaldy to put a little bit of daylight between the two sides.
Right, National 3, 2 matches last week. Dumfries 37, Cartha Queen's Park 15, and Hamilton 19, Orkney 20. Orkney still unbeaten, but their last 3 wins all by a single point.
Yeah, they are all by a single point, but I just think the manner that they're able to win these games in is remarkable. I don't know what it would be great to hear from somebody from Orkney Rugby Club in terms of what their turnaround has been and what the culture's like up there. It's a unique club in terms of national rugby. They stand in their own pedestal, certainly, because there's nobody else like them. But those victories, although they're narrow, they're able to come to the mainland and win against big clubs in narrow games. They did it to Boroughmuir, they've done it to Hamilton as well. They've beaten every team that's travelled to Orkney. So, they're sitting top of the pile, sitting pretty. and they've had a remarkable start to the season in National 3.
The National 3 table is Orkney at the top, 6 wins out of 6. Points difference 39, 27 points on the board. Allan Glen's also unbeaten, but 5 games played for them. They're on 24. Preston Lodge on 21. Then it's Hillhead Jordanhill on 18. Boroughmuir have 15. Howe Fife 13. Dumfries 12, thanks to that win over Cartha Queen's Park. Hamilton in 8th position, still without a win, but 8 points. Try bonuses 4, losing bonuses 4 as well. So again, you can see the luck changing in their favour later on in the season. But at the moment, they're in 8th position on 8 points. Then comes Cartha Queen's Park with 7 points, and at the bottom of the table, West of Scotland, who have 6.
Yeah, I think this weekend, obviously, with the fixtures and the standby weekend, are going to have a huge impact in the way that table is going to shape up. Obviously, Allan Glen's have got the opportunity to go top again against West of Scotland, who have only had 1 victory so far in this campaign. So, obviously, Allan Glen's will be sizing up the top of the division, but obviously some tight games in there. Boroughmuir versus Howe Fife in the middle of the table as well, and then Hillhead Jordanhill against Preston Lodge. Now, Preston Lodge have been a team who have been able to put in some good results, and they're 3rd and 4th as well. But PL, they came down from National 2 last year, and it's always the same case. Sometimes you lose players, sometimes you just find your level, but it looks like they're desperate to get back into National 2 and start climbing up the ranks. So this weekend's fixture is going to be massive for them in terms of trying to keep touch and keep pace towards the top.
And as we mentioned earlier, National 3 looks to be, the exciting league this year.
Yeah, I think National 2 and National 3 are both really exciting for various reasons. National 2 is pretty much split down the middle at the moment. You've got 5 teams chasing promotion. You've got 5 teams trying to stay away from relegation. This league, perhaps, at the moment, just looks like there's perhaps 2 going on 3 teams in a relegation battle, but there's certainly 3 or 4 teams ready to compete at the top of the division.
And there was just the one game in National 4, which was Ross High 39, Stuart 26, and a first win for Ross High last week, which puts them up to 9 points. Let's have a quick look at the table there. And Garnock are played 5, won 5, 25 points. Can't do any better than that. Their game was off last week, but it will be played this week. It's Garnock against North Berwick, first against 5th, but North Berwick have won 3 of their matches so far. And then the Wanderers battle once again. Greenock Wanderers against Murrayfield Wanderers, 10th against 6th, and Strathmore versus White Craigs, a game between the 4th team and the 2nd place team, and that's going to be a 1:30 kickoff.
Yeah, I think, another interesting weekend in National 4. I think, the 10-team leagues throughout all the divisions have been a blessing in disguise. Every weekend's really difficult to call. It's made it more competitive, I feel. So, in terms of the divisions and the way the leagues are shaped up now, National 4 is no different. But Garnock obviously had a brilliant start to the season. We'll be trying to keep that 100% record, but some other big games in there as well. Greenock, who are rooted to the bottom at the moment, will be trying to get off that, especially after the victory from Ross High last week. Obviously being able to beat Stuart, so they'll be wanting to try and pick up a victory against Murrayfield Wands. But again, there's 3 teams at the bottom of that division, almost cut adrift, but it's competitive towards the top.
So Garnock first, 25 points. White Craigs in second, 22. Dunfermline third on 20. In 4th place, Strathmore, 17 points for them. Same amount as North Berwick in 5th position. In 6th, it's Murrayfield Wanderers on 14. Stuartry, 7th place, 13 points. Perthshire, 8th with 9. Ross High, 9th with 9. And Greenock Wanderers at the bottom there, still looking for their first win of the season at 10th position with 4 points. And that's just about it for today on the Scottish Club Rugby podcast. Plenty to look forward to this weekend across all 5 divisions. A reminder that Rugby Radio on Saturday will come to you live from a game in the west of Scotland in the Premiership. You'll have to tune in to find out which one that is. We're looking forward to finding out as well. And there'll be television highlights of Hawick against Musselburgh on Borders Rugby TV on Sunday, so look out for that one. And don't forget to check out the website rugbyradio.co.uk for all the information that you need on the 50 clubs playing National Club Rugby in Scotland. If you want to get in touch, it's podcast@bordersrugby.net. But for now, from Dale Clancy and myself, bye for now.